Hello. So I went on a project to organize my ink samples, and along the way, I made a couple other purchases. The first one is this roll right here of stickers that to me are perfectly sized for labeling ink samples so that I can send some to some lucky people. And then I got these trays from Amazon, which came with no directions on how to assemble them. But, I think I'm relatively bright, so I figured it out and got a couple of pinched fingers and um, some slices along the way. But, didn't take me too long. See, there's a slice. um, and I did get two sets. So you see me kind of piecing it together right here. This was a little difficult. And then there are some letters on the end. So I just made sure that the letters were facing the right way. You can see my hair braid popping in a little bit. Um, and I will tell you the second one was a little bit easier. There we go. So this one is all set up. And I just checked, it actually fits an ink vial, so awesome. Checking out my ouchies. And this next one, I just get the pieces oriented appropriately, and then you will see that these do slide in much easier. So I don't know what it was about this first one, but goodness, it was a beast. I think each of these were about $10 on Amazon, and spoiler alert, I likely need another one. All right, so now that I've got these assembled, then I take out my basket of ink samples. And what I start doing is looking at the labels, and I know the brands that I tend to have a number of samples for. So I start putting them in rows, columns, I guess, based on how this is oriented, based on brand. And what you don't see is that some of them that maybe I only have one or maybe two or three of that brand, I actually put above or up um, further up the table to come back to. So um, just so you know, the column that is most full is Waringal, which I was very surprised about. And I ended up actually having to go into the second column, which is why I'm starting at the bottom and going up. The other column far to the left is Sailor, and I know that I have a lot of Sailor, so that's why I put that brand as far to the left as I did. The other brands that I have a good amount of are Ferris Wheel Press and Colorverse, um, and Van Diemen's is another brand that I have a good amount of. And then Andorilium. So Andorilium, Van Diemen's, and Waringal are all brands that I got through InkFlight, which explains why I have seven right off the bat of each of those. Oh, and Ferris Wheel Press. I got that through InkFlight as well. Now, this is the point where I start to kind of panic of I have all these left in the basket and I don't know if I'm going to have enough room. Um, so for some of the brands, I do have to be a little bit creative and I start to place them at the bottom of the column going up towards the top. Just thinking about planning for some kind of an organization system. And I also get a little surprised at how many ink samples I have. I will be honest, I didn't realize I had this many. I want to say each of these storage containers hold 96 ink samples, so just under 100. And I thought I had 100. I didn't realize it was close to 200. So that's going to be some nice motivation for me to um, here's the Andorilium. So I'm starting at the bottom and going up on those, and that fits perfectly. Um, but yeah, it's going to provide some motivation to actually use my ink samples and use them up. There were two samples that I didn't end up putting in here. One's the Private Reserve Pearlescent Black, I think that's what it's called. And that is the ink that, if any of you have seen some of my ink swatching videos, you know that I have a hatred for that ink deep in my soul because of how it bleeds through paper and feathers, and it's just not a usable ink. Um, so I didn't even bother putting it in here. There's no point in storing it if I'm not going to use it. And then the other one is an Andoryllium orange that I'm using for one of my students. So here I am at the end. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy.